predictive policing, this one gives me much, it's a controversial subject because on one hand, if you're the victim of a crime, you definitely want that person to be caught. You're just filled with emotions and hopefully, you've come out of it okay. But it's one side of the coin, but then there's the other side where we know the capabilities, that artificial intelligence capabilities aren't quite there yet. And so we start using proxies of information. And what I mean by that is there was this group and they used to have a sound feature that would predict where the crime is happening and who would be the criminals. In their case, they did the where part, and they based it on sounds that sounded like gunshots. That's where the criminal activity in their minds, and the minds of the data scientists who were coding the algorithms, which is the sets of instructions that then become the equations that then get into the code, into the systems. And they would code, basically anything that sounds like gunshots. And the problem with that is, if you think about all of the different groups and how they celebrate, for example, and I'm just giving you one example of how to refute, this thinking. 4th of July, firecrackers going off everywhere. We have sets of people who are exactly alike coding these things, not thinking about, what the traditions might be, or even that we do 4th of July, because sometimes these things are outsourced to other countries even that aren't even familiar with U.S. customs. And they may build that algorithm and think that gunshots sound like a perfectly fine way of trying to figure out where criminal activity is occurring. But we know that, there's other ways of thinking, and sometimes that doesn't always get into the algorithms, and especially not predictive policing ones. And the other part of the equation on predictive policing is trying to figure out who is going to commit the crime. This scares me to no end, not because of the intent. The intent is good. We always want to know, before a crime is going to happen. That would be the best thing possible. The problem is how does that get executed in terms of data that's available, and how would you know enough about a single individual to target them as a person who might commit a crime? Even if they have a past criminal history, it's not necessarily indicative of whether or not they're going to cause another crime in the future. And so the data available and the way that we look at criminal activity, I think, needs to be much, much further before we start trying to rely on predictive policing outcomes. And there is a horrible case in Tampa where they're literally focusing on 15-year-olds, an autistic person. These are people who don't fit the norm, for criminal activity. And so that is the question, is how do we handle, artificial intelligence and data is there to handle the majority, not the minority. And so when someone falls outside of that majority, we don't know from a data standpoint how to deal with it. We don't deal with it very well. It's an outlier at that point.